Yo, what's up guys? This is Midnight Wabbit. Welcome back to some Borderlands 3, and level 72 has, the level cap has been increased to level 72, which means new build videos. We're starting with Amara. This is my DragonFlare Amara build. This is a hybrid melee and phase flare action skill Amara build. And what's in my mouth? This is probably my favorite build that I've ever created on a Borderlands game. I'm so happy with the way this build came together. This thing does insane damage. I'm just really happy with it. It's really fun to use. And we'll talk about the phase flare action skill and stuff in a minute, and what weapons you need to use, or what weapons and gear you want, what skill points you want, how to play the build, best ways to do it. And yeah, so we'll talk about all of that in this video, and there will be a save file in the description if you guys want to download it and try out this build for yourselves. But just a small disclaimer, I know I'm not the first one to come up with like a hybrid build with like melee and phase flare and stuff. I've seen other builds like this. I'm not the one that came up, that like figured out, discovered all the interactions in this video. But there's a lot to talk about. So I'm not claiming to be the first one to come up with something like this, but this is just my rendition of it at level 72, and I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the video. We're going to cue a montage of me just kind of, you know, killing some bosses and stuff, whatever, no big deal. Let's cue that right now. Okay, so as you can see, the build definitely works, but there are some things we have to talk about in order to make it work. You can't just, you have to, there's like a learning curve to this build almost. It's not like super complicated. It is a little technical, but the build is very simple to set up, I will say that. So you really only need 3 weapons. We're not shooting anything because we don't have any good, any good gun damage bonuses, so we're not really shooting anything unless we're using the face puncher for that melee damage. I did include a yellow cake and a kick charger if you want to use something like that for second wins, have like a rocket launcher for second wins, but I found honestly that I can just melee or use the face puncher and I'll be fine getting second wins and stuff. And we also do have the Guardian Angel skill to help with that as well in case we do go down prematurely. First thing you're going to want is a high melee damage, a weapon with a high melee damage stat, like the Linoge, or what I found was, I found the Psycho Stabber to be the best because it has the highest base melee damage in the game at 340%. And I believe it's fixed parts, so I believe the Psycho Stabber, as long as you get one, it will always drop with the 340% melee damage, because that's kind of like what it is for. If you want one of these, you can get it from Borman Nate's in Meridian Outskirts on Promethea, but this thing has a really low drop rate in my experience, and it took me like an hour and a half to get this one to drop, and then I just re-rolled the anoint until I got the 150 over 90. The 150 over 90 is the only anoint we're using on our weapons here, because of the fact that it doesn't just, it says it applies to weapon damage, but it actually applies to all damage dealt, including melee, grenade, action skill, anything. So that one, as long as they're over 90% health, this will apply. Now, honestly, it's It's debatable whether or not this is the best thing for the. You could actually run a URAD setup with this build, and that honestly might be even stronger. You could get like if you get like a front loader, right? So have a front loader with a URAD anoint on like weapons like this, because the URAD actually works the same way as this does, where the 100% radiation damage that will apply to melee, grenade, and action skill as well. But that'll be active all the time if you have a front loader, because you'll always be below 50% health. So you could do something like that, and that honestly might be even stronger than this, because the thing is, the damage over time, once they're below 90% health, they stop getting that 150% bonus damage against like a boss or something like that. They'll just stop taking bonus damage once they get below 90% health. So unless you literally one-shot them with the splash damage from the action skill, which you can do with certain bosses, but generally the damage over time is what's getting kills. So it's probably not the best anoint, honestly, now that I think about it, but I'd have to respec everything, or not respec, but I have to re-roll stuff and get a front loader and get URAD anoints on some of these and stuff. So I don't really want to get another Psycho Stabber, because like I said, it took me a while. So yeah, there's that. We've got the Face Puncher, you know, for shooting melee damage. We've got the Guardian Angel. Now this is the new gun that came out with the Vault card rewards in the Director's Cut. This right here, you get it from here. So you have keys. You see these keys, and every time you level up this, you will get a chest. You can open that chest, and you have a chance to get these purple keys from the chest, as well as other things like Iridium, or even the Diamond Loot keys you can get from those chests as well, which is cool. But if you get enough of these purple keys, you get 5. You can buy a Guardian Angel. Now you actually you don't need it, but I would recommend getting 10 keys, because the first Guardian Angel you get will always be non-anointed, no matter what. It will never have an anointment the first one you get. After that, you can buy another one, and each consecutive one after that will have guaranteed to have an anointment. So you can just get the second one and then re-roll it, or you can just keep buying them until you get an anointment you want, if you want to do it that way, if you have a ton of keys. I would just, so because the first, and you can't put an anointment on a non-anointed weapon, but you can change the anointments now with Crazy Earl's re-roll machine on weapons that already have anoints. So that's why you want to have an anointed one, just in case. But moving down to the shield, we have the Stinger. Now, there's a couple options. You can get like a Brawler Ward, a low-level Brawler Ward to get increased melee damage. That's great. I don't have one right now. But the Stinger Shield, the melee from the Stinger, the Nova from the Stinger Shield does melee damage. So that'll scale with all your melee bonuses. And when action skill start is we trigger any effects that on shield break or fill, including the Nova. So if we start our action skill, it'll instantly trigger that Nova. And that melee Nova, which is great. And we got a Fish Slap, grenade that does melee damage. We got an on grenade thrown, weapon grenade and action skill damage increased by 25%. It's a good anoint to have. The Fish Slap, like I said, does melee damage as a grenade, and this is going to be, this paired with the Unleash the Dragon artifact is one of 2 ways that you're going to absolutely just decimate bosses in this game. The Unleash the Dragon, people don't realize how good this artifact actually is with builds like this, but basically the way it works, so as it's what it says on the card, as you can see, the slide, ground slam, and melee ignite chance is 100%, which means every time you deal melee damage, you have a 100% chance to apply a dot on the enemy. That damage over time, however, a lot of people don't know this, will scale with the damage of the melee attack that caused it. And I don't know if I explained that right. So basically, the more damage you do with your melee attack, the more damage the dot is going to do to the enemy. So if you hit an enemy with a Fish Slap, which does insane melee damage, it does melee damage, but also it has insanely high base damage, and it will just do crazy damage, get that mayhem scaling from the melee, the mayhem melee scaling. It will do ridiculous damage, and it will proc a dot that does so much damage that it will pretty much kill anything in the game, including like takedown bosses, raid bosses. Like, it doesn't matter. This damage over time is historically in Borderlands games just bad at endgame. It just doesn't do anything. Damage over time in endgame and Borderlands 2, even the pre-sequel, it wasn't great, and then Borderlands 3, it just historically is not good at endgame. It just it falls off. It doesn't really get the right kind of scaling. But because this scales with the damage of our melee attack, and the melee attack gets massive mayhem scaling, we are able to do unbelievable amounts of damage with the Unleash the Dragon dot on enemies. Even enemies that aren't that are resistant to fire, and I'll show you guys how we do that in just a minute. And then the Muse class mod. Now this is the class mod we're going to be rocking, not because of the special effect. The special effect scales with melee damage, but it does not count as melee damage. So basically, which means it does not get mayhem scaling, which means the highest you're going to hit with that melee projectile that shoots outward is going to be maybe 20 or 30 million, which is, don't get me wrong, that's good damage, but that's probably the highest you can possibly hit with that. And the regular build, I've hit dots that are over 100 million per tick with the Unleash the Dragon. I've hit like over hundreds of millions of dots of dot damage, and it just kills things instantly. It's crazy. So we're not using it for the special effect. We're using it because it has 3 points into Illuminated Fist, which normally gives you 75% melee damage. Now it gives you 300. If we're getting 3 points into it, with 2 points into it, you'll get 225. 1 point, you'll get 150. You want to make sure this class mod, the one you get, has as many points into Illuminated Fist as you can possibly get. So this is pretty much a god roll. We got 2 into Laid Bare, 3 into Illuminated Fist. We got melee damage, action skill damage, and action skill cooldown rate. That's like pretty much the best thing you can get. This is pretty much the best one. The only thing that would make it better would be if it was level 72, so those bonuses would be increased. But other than that, this is pretty much the best you can get. But any Muse class mod with points into Illuminated Fist is going to be really good for this build. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about how this works real quick, and then we'll go into the skill tree. So. Let's talk about the Phase Flare action skill. So obviously everybody knows how to melee, how to throw grenades, how to, stuff like that. The Phase Flare action skill. So it's like an orb. You press your action skill button, it comes back to you, and you can hit it to melee it and launch it at an enemy. Now, every time you melee it, let's just read the description. So it does constant elemental damage to nearby enemies. You melee it to send it flying towards an enemy and do impact damage and damage. And that impact damage counts as splash damage, by the way. So that'll benefit from splash damage bonuses, which is why we're speccing into so much splash damage as well. Every time you use a melee attack in the orbit, it gains increased damage. So you ramp up the damage based on the damage of the melee attack you're dealing to it. Which is why when you're charging it up, you want to make sure you're holding the Psycho Stabber with that 340% melee damage, because you're going to get so much damage stacked up. We have hundreds of millions of damage stacked up in this orb right now. Now this will break. I think after 3 or 4 melees, the orb will just, you can see, will break. And yeah, so I've found is you can melee it 3 times with the Psycho Stabber. You can't melee it more than that. 3 is the max you can melee it, because if you do it a 4th time on the impact, it'll blow up. And we need it to actually sit there on impact and do damage over time as well. So just to show you guys, if I can get this to work. Alright, so melee damage. So we're gonna just hit it. Actually, I didn't do that right. So I'm gonna break it. Basically, you charge it up, and what I've found is the way that this works. So you charge it up with this, getting that 340% bonus melee damage. You're stacking melee damage. If you're holding the Psycho Stabber, you can do 3 hits on that orb as your max amount, and then on the 4th hit, swap off. And you hold the Guardian Angel while you do the 4th. When you hit it towards the enemy that you're trying to kill, like the boss or whatever, you want to hit it towards them with the Guardian Angel in your hand. Because I don't know if I covered this already. So basically, the Guardian Angel, it deals increased damage based on distance, but it's not just weapon damage. It's melee, grenade, and action skill. It's everything. So as long as we're holding this weapon, we're going to be dealing base damage, massively increased damage. And I think it's 20 or 30 meters is the range for the max bonus, and I think it's like 500 or 600% bonus, which is actually insane. So if you're using your action skill, or if you're throwing the fish slap, you should be holding the Guardian Angel, not the Psycho Stabber. Even though the Psycho Stabber boosts melee damage by 340%, and it does boost the fish slap damage, the damage bonus on this is greater, and it will give you more damage on your fish slap, and therefore your Unleash the Dragon dot. So, all right, let's showcase this. All right, so I think are we on fire? We are on fire. Okay, so this counts as a flesh enemy. Hit him once. 81k. Okay? Alright. Hit it again. 304k. One more time. Okay, I kind of missed that time. And then we're going to swap to this. And that's going to... I can do it, right? I can't get it to hit him. Yeah. But anyway, anytime you stack it up, it's going to just exponentially increase the damage of that. And then as long as you're far enough away, you shoot the orb with the Guardian Angel out, it will go flying and just destroy any enemy in the game, pretty much. Now let's talk about the skill tree. That's how you play the build. I'm going to talk about the skill tree. I actually didn't put any points into Blue Tree. These are from my class mod. So no Remnant, no Avatar, no nothing like that. No not even do harm for the action skill damage. I didn't even feel like we needed it. I tested it with do harm, and I had to take points out of other skills that felt like were giving me more damage. So I don't think it's worth it for this build. Though that's up to you guys. You can mess around with that. Start with Red Tree. Anima. This is pretty much necessary. Status effect damage, status effect duration. That is to boost the damage of our Unleash the Dragon dot. Not that we need that. It's kind of overkill, but we also need to move down the tree, and this is the only thing that benefits our build out of these three. So, Tempest. This is pretty much a must-have. Elemental damage plus 30%. Shock damage is further increased by 20% on top of that. That's going to boost all damage we're dealing. That's pretty much non-negotiable. Illuminated Fist for the melee damage. You don't have to put a point here, but it's only 1 point to get the 75% melee damage. And then, you know, however many you have on your action skill, on your class mod, I mean, you can get up to 300% melee damage with this, which I definitely think is worth it for this build. Because, like I said, the more melee damage we're dealing to the orb, the more damage it's going to deal when it impacts an enemy. And we have access to all the action skill elements. Cryo, Shock, which is the default, and then Fire and Corrosive. We'll show Green Tree. So Roots to Rise is 40% bonus health. Personal Space only works with weapon damage, not melee, and I don't think it actually works with a Face Puncher since it counts as melee damage, so I didn't even spec into that because it's not going to work with anything on our build. Clarity. The health regen's nice, but I feel like max health is better to avoid getting health gated. Arms deal, increased splash damage and reduced splash damage, or splash damage reduction against you. This is great because, like I said, our action skill does bonus splash damage, and there's actually a perk, or I mean a skill in our purple tree that'll let our melee attacks do splash damage as well. So we're speccing into splash damage for this as much as we can. Helping Hands for the damage reduction after activating your action skill, 40% damage reduction. Like I said, we are kind of squishy on this build, so this is nice to have. I put 1 point into Samsara. The gun damage isn't going to help, but the health regeneration might. Every time you do damage with your action skill, you get a stack of it. And you get 1.7% max health per second per stack. So 5 stacks, you're going to get, like, I don't even know how much, but it's a decent amount. Find Your Center. This will increase all your melee damage, including Fish Slap, Face Puncher, and the Stinger Shield. It's just a flat melee damage increase. Mindfulness for the movement speed. At 25 stacks, you basically have Seeing Dead Zane speed, and you're flying around the map. It's pretty crazy. You can actually combine this with a Snowdrift artifact, but I don't do that personally because I used to do that with my Spiritual Driver build with Mindfulness, and I found that I was literally just flying off the map all the time. Like, I couldn't control how fast I was going when I had the Snowdrift on as well as Mindfulness stacked up to 25. It's very hard to control where you're going. You're moving so fast. It's actually insane. Jab Cross for the additional action skill damage when you melee an enemy. Every time you're dealing melee damage, you get 75% bonus action skill damage. So, you know, why not? We're meleeing all the time, and we want our action skill to do as much damage as possible. Guardian Angel. I just put a point here because I felt like I said, I was having issues with survivability, and I just never really found another place to put the point that I wanted to, that I felt like was more useful. So I just kept it there just in case you get like a cheap shot, like unfair down or something like that, like during a takedown or something, or during a boss fight, you can get back up. There's no enemies to kill. Blitz. Now, this melee damage is great for mobbing, but this will not work on bosses and stuff. This only works for your base melee because it works for the Blitz melee attack, not melee damage. So this will not work for the Face Puncher or the Fish Slap or the Stinger Shield. They will not get that 100% bonus melee damage, but they do get the bonus melee damage from Find Your Center as well as Illuminated Fist. They will get it from that. They're just not from Blitz. So you don't have to spec into Blitz, but it is nice to have. The Lunge is kind of nice for melee and stuff, and then that bonus damage is nice for proccing the Unleash the Dragon dot as well on certain like mobs, like tankier mobs and stuff. Purple Tree. This is definitely my favorite Amara skill tree right now. And this is what we're rocking Phase Flare. Like I said, rocking the base Phase Flare because all of these, I believe, reduce the damage. This one doesn't, but it doesn't do damage over time. Instead of doing splash damage, it heals allies. So, and you can send it to a downed ally and grant a second wind, which is kind of cool. But for this build, we're just using the base Phase Flare. These two reduce the damage, and we don't want to have as much damage as possible, so we're using the base one with Expedite. So every time we get a kill with our action skill, it increases our cooldown rate by 30%. This is nice because, like I said, I don't know if I said this yet, but this skill has like a 45 or 48 second cooldown on Phase Flare. So getting our cooldown back as quick as possible is great. All right, now let's talk about the purple tree itself real quick. So Heavy Rain, splash damage. I'm trying to speed this up because I do want to show some gameplay as well. So splash damage here. Melee damage when we inflict a status effect. We're Amara. We're going to be doing that all the time. We put 3 points into Trust in Yourself just to move down the tree. I felt like this was a good option because I like the weapon swap speed. I like being able to swap to my Guardian Angel really quickly so I can do those boss kills. You could put them into Unweave the Rainbow. If you're doing a lot of cryo damage and freezing people a lot, this would be good. Ebb and Flow, you only do 1 point in here because any melee kill is going to fully heal you because you're doing it scales off the damage the melee damage you deal. So it's 21% of damage dealt. You're doing so much melee damage. You're gonna if you hit a fish slap kill on like a basic mob, this full health instantly. Any melee kill, just full health. It's gonna combo breaker. Killing an enemy with melee damage is a chance to reset your action skill cooldown. Again, this is really nice when paired with Expedite. Well, Expedite, this will kind of override Expedite, but it's only a 20% chance, so it's nice to have. We're doing melee damage all the time, so killing an enemy with melee damage has a chance to reset. And this is melee damage, not a melee attack. That's the difference. This works with a fish slap, this works with the stinger shield, and this works with the face puncher. After activating your action skill, you gain increased melee damage for a short time. Now, so this is good because the 70% melee damage, like I said, the more melee damage you deal to your phase flare orb, the more damage it's going to output. So after activating your action skill, which is your phase flare, you're going to deal increased melee damage, and you can just start punching the orb, dealing more damage to it, charging it up faster. Burn both ends. Basically, ignore the top paragraph, but the bottom paragraph, whenever Amara is dealt damage, she gains increased damage, and it stacks. So it's 5% per stack, and there's 15 stacks. That's 75% damage, and that it just says damage. It doesn't say weapon damage, which means it includes all damage. It includes action skill and melee as well, and grenade. So any kind of damage you deal will be boosted by this. So it's 75% flat damage, and it's just whenever you take damage, you get a stack. And you're taking damage all the time, so you're basically going to have 75% bonus damage at all times with anything you want to use. So that's really nice. I noticed a substantial damage increase when I put this skill on for the first time, so definitely recommend that. Atman, you actually don't need. If you want to put these points somewhere else, you can put those into Unweave the Rainbow. If you wanted to put them into Fast Hands for even more weapon swap speed, you can really put them anywhere you want. I put them into Atman just because skill damage. I mean, it's not necessary. It's kind of overkill, really, with how much damage this phase flare does. It's kind of overkill based on the mayhem scaling and stuff, but that 27% damage, I mean, it's just nice to have, and I figured why not. We had 3 more points. Body and Mind, now this is a great one. Kill skill. Your melee attacks will deal bonus splash damage for 12 seconds after a kill. So you get a kill, your melee attacks deal splash damage of your attuned element. That is awesome. They just basically create novas. But for the face puncher, the reason this thing is so good is for the face puncher, because we have a times 14 face puncher. That will proc 14 of these novas. Each pellet will proc a nova. That's insane. And this gets mayhem scaling too. So it's not the splash damage that's listed there. It's much, much exponentially more damage. And last but definitely not least is Clear the Mind. It's a kill skill as well. After killing an enemy, you ignore elemental damage resistance for a short time, but it does not affect immunity. Okay, so what this means, basically, obviously, if an enemy is completely immune to, say, fire, and you deal fire damage to them, even with this skill active, it's not going to do anything. They're still going to be immune. But if they resist fire, like they just take substantially less damage from it, it'll negate the resistance and basically make it so it's like a neutral dot, like a neutral. So like your Unleash the Dragon dot, even though it's fire, it'll basically, against armor, if you have that kill skill active, it'll deal the same damage as like if it was possible to have like a kinetic dot in the game, like a non-elemental damage over time. It deals like perfectly neutral damage. It doesn't get the damage increase like you would have using corrosive on armor or fire on flesh or shock on shield or something like that, but it will get a pretty. It will be much more damage than it would have been with the resistance. So you're still getting neutral damage, which is really good. So you can use any element against any enemy pretty much, which is really nice, which means you can use Unleash the Dragon against like Wotan and still kill him. And it's pretty nice to have. And that's it for the skill tree. Let's go, I'll go show you guys a little bit of gameplay. For basic mobbing, it's pretty self-explanatory. So what we're going to do is we're going to go take on a boss. Alright, here we are at Trant. Let's get a kill real quick. Rock our kill skills. Need that. Give it back. Not yet. Oh, we didn't even have the Guardian Angel on, and it killed him on impact. The damage over time didn't even kill him. He just died on impact. Alright. Well, it looks like we need a tougher boss. Now, let's go find one. Alright. Well, I found us a better, or not a better, but a stronger boss to fight. Because like Captain Trant doesn't really stand a chance. It's kind of unfair. This guy has like raid boss levels of health. So, should be more interesting. Give me that. I believe I've tested and you can hit the ball, I think, 3 times, and on the 4th one it will break on impact. We don't want it to break on impact because we want it to do that massive AoE damage. Like this. See if I can get him to... Yep, there he goes. It's just... Oh, it's so cool, dude. So cool to see. Rocket pod. Oh, that's just awesome. Yeah, we're gonna kill this guy. Actually, we're gonna overkill this guy. Anyway, hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. That's gonna be it for today. The save file is in the description. If you guys are interested in downloading the save file to try out the build for yourself. Otherwise, this is pretty much what you need is what I have equipped. And then I'll show you guys the skill tree one last time. Nothing in blue tree. There's the orange tree and the green tree. And yeah, that's gonna do it for the video. Like I said, hopefully you guys did enjoy. Please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more Borderlands 3 content. I got some more videos, more builds coming out for all the characters at level 72. Some pretty cool stuff coming out. I'm trying to decide. I think I'm gonna do Zane next, and then I do have another Amara build that's like an actual gun build that I'm still working on. That's kind of interesting, but I don't have the gear for that yet, so I'm still working on that. So you're probably gonna see the Zane build next. But yeah, stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. And actually, if you want, you can leave me a comment. Let me know which character you want to see a build for next. If you want to see another Amara build, if you want to see that Zane build, it's pretty much ready. So I'm probably going to do that first. But if you guys want to see, really adamant, you want to see like flak or modes or something like that, I mean, I can put together a build for one of those. Updated for level 72 as well. So let me know. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. And sorry for the long video. I just kind of wanted to make sure I covered everything. But hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.